warm welcome and thank you for joining our 5th episode of Resilience Matters series. Today, Alison and myself, we're thrilled to have Patricia Brooks join us, who's a culture and change specialist, but also the director of Geneva Pearl. And Geneva Pearl, they help leaders put the human experience into transformation and change, and also build that right culture for their business strategy. Patricia also leads the Change Collaborative, which is a think tank that brings leaders together to connect change, engagement and well-being together. So perfect for our Resilient Matters series. And, welcome, Patricia. We're thrilled to have you here today.
Thank you. It's good to be here. Looking forward to the conversation.
Yeah. So, Patricia, tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I, my background is in learning and development. And transformation and culture change. I've worked public and private sector. And maybe the last 15 years, I've been kind of looking at why things are done the way they are in organisations. So kind of built my interest up over time. And I've been working with lots of different organisations to help them in that way. I live in London. I've got 2 men at home. No, that's the wrong way to say it. I've got 2 sons who are now men. That's how I say that. They're 28 and 22 just about. So 2 grown-up people here. And living life, really. Living life.
That's a really varied background of things, and I guess you've focused now on the culture. And I guess from my perspective, I always think that's like just how you do things around here. That's kind of how I take it. Do you think that resilience has a part to play in that, or how does resilience show up in culture? Do you think?
Do you know? I mean, maybe if we spend a minute talking about what culture is, what the business culture is, because you kind of said, you kind of see it's the way things are done around here, and that's what you'll see actually in some books, the way people talk about it, and it's absolutely true. Culture is also about how people dress, how people speak to each other, the behaviours that are accepted and not accepted, the way the reception desk is set out and how receptionists greet you. It's all of those things and the way that things are done. So, of course, the processes, the practices, all of that comes into it. The hierarchy, whether it's deep or whether it's that is all about, that's the culture. So it is quite hard to put your finger on it, which is why some people find it really difficult to grasp that it is something that can be changed. So to answer your question about how does resilience show up in that, if you're working in a place where you think this is such a great place to work, I love it here, the people are so lovely, I'm allowed to get on with my job, I get the support when I need it, all of that great stuff, then actually you might think we don't need resilience in the culture aspect. But if you're in a place where it's a little bit toxic, it's, you've got managers who want to micromanage you, you've got people who don't trust you, and you feel stuck, you can't get out, there might be many reasons why you can't leave that job today, that's where resilience shows up. So when you're working in an organisation and you're constantly getting knocked back, knocked down, knocked out, pushed back, things said about you, all of that negative behaviour, I think you have to be resilient to be able to come back the next day or the next hour or after a meeting, or, I think you have to be resilient. So I think it's there all the time, but I think people will recognise it more in those environments that are difficult to navigate and negotiate your way through, I think.
And that's really interesting, because what you've just described there, culture is huge.
Yes.
everything.
Yes.
And actually, and I guess resilience, certainly for individuals like you've just described there, they need it to be resourceful if they live in that toxic, they work in that toxic environment. And I'm guessing as well, the same for leaders and organisation, it goes every level down, And, do you think, what is the role of leaders in that, in the creating that culture and support potentially?
I mean, to create the right culture that supports what you want to do. I mean that's the area that I work in. So I do tend to work with the C-suite and leaders, but importantly, I also work with teams, because sometimes trying to change the culture for a whole organisation is people think it's impossible. It's not impossible, but you have to do it a bit at a time. This is not a big bang type of adjustment that so there's no go live date for culture change, and I think that's the mistake that some people make. But I think that the leaders in an organization, because you can't touch it, because you can't count it, because sometimes it's really difficult to measure, and to get the measurements of it, you've got to think very, very differently. I think leaders, the role that they can and should and are playing with the leaders that I'm working with at the moment, actually, are that they get that something needs to change, and I'm helping them to try and put their finger on it. And if you can't physically put your finger on it, what is in your mind's eye that it is, so that you can describe it. And that's the difficulty. And if leaders come on board and start opening their minds a little bit, but actually it's not just the way it's done around here. You've got to stop using that excuse. The brand is not going to be the only reason that people join you, that all of these other facets need to be around for people to join you and want to stay with you. So they've just got to be a little bit more open mind, and then support the duration of a culture change piece. And what I mean by that is, when you're normally running a project, there's a beginning, a middle, and an end. Done, we do our lessons learned, all done, move on to the next thing. With culture change, it's not the same type of project.
No,
there's small things that need to happen. There might be big things that need to happen, but leaders need to stay for the duration, and that duration might be 2 years, 3 years. Beyond that, if you try and do a project and then let it go, then actually I think you've wasted your money doing the project.
Yeah.
Because you have to hold on to it.
And in that kind of situation, so you're making the leaders themselves need that resilience. I mean, as somebody who delivers quite a few leadership programs, and had those conversations, particularly at the moment where you've got leaders going, how do I help my teams? How do I keep them going with all the challenges that are out there? The leaders themselves have got to be able to not only help their teams be resilient, but be resilient and have faith themselves.
Yes.
When you're going through a culture change, that you will get there, but your faith may be tested along the way.
I think you're absolutely right, that there's and the managers who are also part of the culture change, that there's going to be so many things that you're kind of trying and testing as you go through culture change. Things that you think might move the dial might not actually move it as quickly as you want. So you've got to be resilient enough to go, okay, that hasn't worked, and brave enough to say, we've started down this road, it's not working, let's course correct, let's kind of have a rethink. Sometimes, and I've worked with leaders who go, well, we've started, so let's keep going, even though you go, yeah, but it's not working. It's not having the effect that but we've spent all this money, we've just got a little bit more to spend, which turns out not to be the case. And then they just keep going. So being brave and being resilient enough to go, yeah, I trust this, and I'm going to get pushback from here, pushback from there, comments from here, but you know what? It's the right thing to do.
Yeah,
you're right.
That letting go is quite fundamental, isn't it? That making sure that you have got that growth mindset. That okay, this isn't working, but I'm embracing it, and we've got to change.
Yeah, we've got to move forward, and you know, the mindset shift is a big one, actually, because, you know, I don't know who I was talking with or where I've got this from, but as leaders get into their leadership position or start climbing the ladder into their leadership position, the type of people who tend to become leaders are those the drivers, the ones with the focus, the ones who can deliver and bang tables and push. So they have a certain set of characteristics, and those characteristics kind of and this is not all leaders, so, you know, no one kind of come and say that's not me, but, you know, these types of leaders tend to want hard numbers, hard facts, hard figures. You know, they want the tangible stuff. They want to see it. They want to be able to count it and call it and present it. Culture change is not that. You know, so I tend to have to find a couple of things that can be counted and can be called, because that's sometimes what leaders need so that they can get on to the bus with you. So that, you know, and work together. You know, in the past, where it comes across as very, very soft for people, touchy feely, I've heard it called, fluffy, I've heard it called. You know what? And it probably is all them things. But the challenge I have, and anyone else doing this work, and it's different for every organisation. So it's not like I've got the magic bullet now and I can say, right, we do it like this. Every organisation you go into, you really need to really listen and hear and digest and really absorb yourself before you can start saying, right, this is how it's going to go. So it's difficult to put your fingers on. So yeah, it's a tricky one.
Yeah, totally. And I guess, you know, when people come to you, then, you know, from a mindset point of view, is it that tend to be, you know, because they've got bad engagement scores? You know, what triggers, you know, because like you say, a normal project, right, we've got a change program, we've got to take people through the journey, that's quite tangible. But what alerts them to go, actually, this isn't a great environment for our teams? You know, how do people come to you?
Do you know, it's not normally, this is not a great environment for our team. Okay. It's normally, well, in the last, I don't know, maybe 6 or 7 years, that the word culture is, obviously it's always been there, it's dictionary definition, but culture in business has just become a bit more heightened in the conversation. So lots of people are now recognising that how things are done in their business affects the business. So that's it's almost come onto the agenda. I'm not going to belittle it and say well, I'd be belittling what I'm doing, wouldn't I, really? But and say it's on by accident. But I think it's a buzzword almost. Yeah. In the last, you know, I'm going to say 7 or 8 years. But it's there now. So which is great, because I think people do need to recognise that how people feel at work affects how the business is operated, affects the bottom line. So, you know, connecting it to the bottom line is what we have to do. Accidentally, I've been in organisations doing change work, people change work, and I've, you know, been in the boardroom with, you know, whoever else is in the boardroom, and, you know, I've said, this is not about that. It's the culture. So I've kind of brought it to the attention sometimes, and then it's like, oh right, okay. So what's that about then? And then we start the conversation. So I've tended to be there for other reasons, and that's how I've kind of said, yeah, this is not about that one process, or it's about the culture. So, and then we've started to talk deeper about, what are you talking about, Patricia? And then, yeah, it normally comes out like that.
And it's interesting that, you know, people do talk about culture more. I mean, you know, my background's change management as well.
Yeah.
And I just wondered whether there's a pace of change, that we've gone through so much change and change programs that they realise as well that there's been an impact over a period of time, which is why change seems to be tighter managed now and culture's spoken about a lot more. Do you think there's a increase in the pace of change that we see?
I don't know, actually. I'm not sure there's been I'm not sure there's been an increase. I think I'm just thinking about some of the clients I'm working with and what I read about out there. But I guess because there's more focus on calling something a change program rather than an IT program, or so I think again it's just in the forefront of people's minds. The change programs I tend to work on, if I was to go back 20 years, they were IT programs, and then the change element was the training bit at the end. So I think people have now started to recognise and realise that that's not how you do it, because those programs you then have to go back and do the change elements. And then the leaders go, all right, we've already spent on this. Why are we having to spend again? So I think over the years, they've realised that. So many programmes are now called change programmes, but I don't know if there's more of them. I just think it's a recognition that actually we need to remember that people are a big part of this change, and we have to support people through the change. It's not about the IT. It's not, the IT is the enabler in the end.
But the people can create the resistance, and they either make it succeed, or they can either directly or indirectly sabotage it.
Yeah, exactly. And from a change perspective, the angle that I go in from is the people angle, as you said right at the beginning, Kathy. It's the people. We can't forget the people. And what I think people are finding tricky, and this is where the resilience comes in again. Some leaders have got to kind of show their vulnerability, or their lack of understanding of culture, or lack of knowledge, not understanding, their lack of knowledge with regards to the culture change, and how do we do it then. Because the bit that I work with a lot of clients on is the supporting people through change. It's not about doing the change. It's not about just parachuting a change team in. Is not, for me, it's not the answer. And I know I've been part of those parachuted teams. I have. And I've been the recipient of a team being parachuted in. So when I kind of started looking at what I wanted to do with myself and what I wanted to go into, my model is not to parachute a whole team in and then take them off. It's actually to bring in some key people who can help to educate and support the leaders, the managers, those individuals through change, so that it becomes self-sustaining. So when you step back and then step out, you almost don't recognise that you're gone. That's the model I tend to work with. I don't like this. Let's bring a change team in. Let's do a change project. Let's have our gateways, which are important in any project, and then there's an end, and then there's this handover to BAU. Again, something I don't agree with. In one of my last clients, I said, we need to get rid of that language, because it suggests that we're kind of cutting everything and then we're throwing stuff over the wall. We need to get rid of that language. So we talked about, in the last X number of weeks of a project, let's be transitioning, let's involve people earlier on in the program, so that when you step back and step out, that they shouldn't miss you. As a consultant, people say to me, but Patricia, surely you want to kind of make more work for yourself. And I said, no, that's not how it goes. That's not how it goes. You've got to leave some self-sustaining people, so that eventually they go, oh, where's Patricia? Oh my gosh, this is all happening without her. That's what I want to leave behind.
That's success. Sounds like Nanny McPhee. When you no longer need me or want me. But yeah, that's fascinating. And and in your work as well, I guess, when we support leaders and teams, through change, because we're human, right? We do have reaction to change. What can we do to help businesses, individuals, leaders through that change?
In the resilience sense, or anyway, and I guess resilience absolutely comes into the conversation. So
and that mindset, I guess.
Yeah.
Help them cope with that change.
Do you know what? I think it's there is some education, and what I found doesn't work is if you put all the leaders through an education program and you develop a strategy, and then you say, great, okay, off you go. You're all educated now. You've all got new qualifications or whatever it is. Off you go. That doesn't work in my view. So I think the help and support that leaders need is it's not a training course that they go on. It's a constant learning effort. There might be bits of knowledge giving, but we've got to help them be able to apply that knowledge in a safe environment. Now, where I've worked with leaders and done it this way, I've also spoken with the C-suite and said, people who those leaders lead, it's really important to let them know that they are learning something new and they are applying something new. Things might go wrong for them. You know, C-suite and leaders are very nervous about this, very nervous, because they need to show that they don't know everything. But I think that's a good thing in change. And where this has worked and gone very, very well are those leaders who go, yeah, I'm human, you know, I'll get it wrong, it'll be fine, you know. And where they go, you know, I'm trying this new thing, I'm doing this thing, you know, let's try this, let's do this. Then the people that they're dealing with think, oh, right, blimey, they don't know everything, so therefore it's a bit safer for me to get it wrong, you know. So having that mindset to kind of say, I know I've been leading, so I know I'm in a position of, you know, people within my team thinking that I know everything, but actually I'm gonna just say, no, I don't know everything. This is new to me. I've got 2 degrees, 3 degrees, all that, but this is new to me. Help me make it work for you. It works best in those situations. And when things don't work for them, they might feel like it's knocked them quite a lot. But what we're building in them is, that's all right, that's fine, that's okay. What are you going to do to correct that? What are you going to do differently? And so it's walking with them and co-creating and co-developing, and the collaboration as you go along the journey. That works really well and kind of helps to get people back on their feet if they've been deflated quite a lot by a few things.
It's fascinating because really what you're saying is you're teaching them to accept their humanity and to just be human beings with all our foibles and when things go wrong. But actually, leaders have, in a lot of cases, developed a persona. And this is who I am and this is how I should be. And you're taking them back to just being vulnerable and being themselves.
You're right. And some people accept that more than others and quicker than others. You know, I mean, with change, people will join the party at different times, won't they? You know, and it's the same for this. Some people need to see that so-and-so over there is doing it and they've got something wrong before they go, oh, okay, they didn't die then. All right then, right. You know, so you know, and some people need that before they go, oh, okay, then it feels all right then. I'm a bit more comfortable trying it. Others are straight in there going, all right, Patricia, what do we have to do? How are we going to do this? And then I work with them to what do you think kind of needs to happen? This is your organisation. I've got the bird's eye view. I've got the expertise, hopefully, that you need, you know, but what will work here? So, and I've got lots of suggestions, but actually there isn't a one size fits all for this type of work at all.
No,
which is why it's quite exciting.
Yeah, and it's interesting because we are just people, right? And what I heard there was, you know, there's a vulnerability piece, there's, you know, creating that safety piece and allowing people to make mistakes. And I guess by having that approach as well, that must increase, you know, not just collaboration, but, you know, that engagement again, that resilience, that mindset, that it all rubs off on each other, doesn't it? You know, if you work.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and you know, the engagement piece that you talked about, and you know, the communication engagement, you know, whatever you want to call that. One's at one end of the spectrum for me, the other one is at the other end of the spectrum, and you know, I don't want to get those mixed up. But it is all about all of those things coming together, and people recognizing that everybody needs supporting through change, not just the team in the lower end of the grading level, everybody. And as soon as the leaders recognize and kind of go, okay, I really don't know what's going on here, we need some support, don't we? Then that's when it starts to work, when people go, okay, what can we do about it? Where do we start? We have this strategy, but where do we start? So yeah, it's that.
It's fascinating. I can't believe time's going so quickly. But
Goodness.
I guess what would be interesting is, you know, just from our perspective, how do you build your resilience? You know, the Patricia Brooks.
God, do you build it? Do you build it? I don't know whether. Do you know? I do not know whether I have built resilience or learned to become more resilient, or whether it's an innate thing that's in you. I'm a great believer of, you know, things like this start from a very, very, very young age. You know, if you're watching a baby learning to walk, they fall over, they get up again. For me, that's resilience. They're not giving up straight away. You know, and I have seen babies who fall down and will sit and cry and then wait to be picked up. You know, and if I kind of look at those two things, if there was a research program going on that followed those two examples of babies, would the other one be more resilient in an adult life? I don't know, but I tend to look backwards and forwards at those types of things. You know, in the nowadays in the school playground, our primary school children, not even just nowadays, the last 10 years or so, are taught that no one wins, everyone's a winner. Say that, everyone's a winner. Is that kind of will that cause us problems later on with resilience when they're knocked back? I mean, I think I've had lots and lots of occasions where I've been knocked back, knocked down, knocked out, said no to. You know, I'm a consultant, I have to find my own work, you know, so there's lots of times. But actually, I'm okay with that. Because don't get me wrong, some things have affected me more than others, but eventually you go, actually, that was just a passing moment. There's other things out there, there's other things for me. So I think I have been, I don't know, I don't think I can answer the question, how have I built my resilience, but I have been resilient as I reflect on this so many times. And I'm quite self-sufficient individual as well. I'm not needy. So I rely on myself, and I wonder if actually, do you know what, you're making me think about some work that I'm doing about who will stand up better to change and who won't. And is it someone who's needy, and is that baby who sat down and waited for someone to come and get them, versus the baby who fell over, got back up, and eventually got it? You're making me think, Kathy. You're making me think.
Well, I guess we'll reflect on that, and certainly in the work that Alison and I have done, you know, actually the more change or the more time you've had to, you know, become resilient, your tolerance level potentially changes, and actually more, and maybe that's part of it. And maybe those babies that are still sitting down, it depends whether, you know, they've had to be resilient or not.
Tolerance is a good word, actually. Your tolerance changes, and your bounce back ability.
We like bounce back ability. That's it's a great descriptor for what happens whether you're little or whether you're a 60-year-old woman.
Absolutely. So more tolerant, definitely.
Well, do you know what, Patricia? I can't believe we're out of time.
Oh my gosh.
We could
Can we talk some more?
So many times. Maybe just turn the camera.
A whole set of topics we could do.
Yeah, totally. But no, it's been really fascinating. So thank you, Patricia. And we'll be continuing to host this Resilience Matters across a number of people from different industries and functions. So if any of our network would like to get in touch, please do. You can get hold of us through our website at www.ihavegotthis.co.uk, which I'm flashing up right now. And also, if you go to our website, we now have 101 ways to build resilience. So please do go to the website and have a look at that. And we look forward to speaking in our next Resilience Matters.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Patricia.